Hope you've been doing okay. It's been pretty sunny this week, although we've had a lot of rain as well, lots of storms and things. I've had a lot of storms where I am in Brackley. I'm sure you have had in, over by Milton Keynes as well. But yeah, the weather's not been too bad, has it? And hope you've been getting out and about for your daily exercise, enjoying the work as usual. Thanks again for all the emails we've had coming in. And yes, lots of you are coming back next week, which is really, really exciting. So looking forward to seeing lots of you. Don't worry if for any reason you're not coming back. Miss Eva and I are going to keep going with the reading, keep going with the video and the website and the work just as usual. So still really looking forward to hearing from you, even if you're not in school. Please keep that contact up. It's really, really important. Right, so I thought I'd get back to reading the next part of our book, Wrinkle in Time. So we were on chapter 7, The Man with Red Eyes, and we got about halfway through, just the point where the man with red eyes was trying to trick the children. If you remember that he was trying to get them to say the multiplication tables in their heads, and that's a way of hypnotising them. But luckily, Meg and Charles Wallace managed to snap out of that, and he said, "Oh, well done, you've passed the test." So we don't quite know who this man is. We don't quite know what the test is or what they're doing. But we'll read together to the end of the chapter. So we'll just pick up where we left off before. The words of the multiplication table seemed to break up into laughter. Splendid, splendid. You've passed your preliminary tests with flying colours. Preliminary it means initial or first test that you would do. So obviously he's got a big plan in mind for the children. You didn't think we were as easy as all that, falling for that old stuff, did you? Charles Wallace demanded. I hope not. I most sincerely hope not. But after all, you are very young and very impressionable, and the younger the better, my little man, the younger the better. Meg looked up at the fiery eyes, at the light pulsing above them and then away. She tried looking at the mouth, at the thin, almost colourless lips, and this was more possible even though she had to look obliquely, so that she was not sure exactly what the face really looked like, whether it was young or old, cruel or kind, human or alien. If you please, she said, trying to sound calm and brave, the only reason we are here is because we think our father is here. Can you tell us where to find him? Ah, your father. There seemed to be a great chortling of delight. Ah, yes, your father. It is not can I, you know, young lady, but will I? Will you then? Well, that depends on a number of things. Why do you want your father? Didn't you ever have a father yourself? Meg demanded. You don't want him for a reason. You want him because he's your father. Ah, but he hasn't been acting very like a father lately, has he? Abandoning his wife and his 4 little children to go gallivanting off on wild adventures of his own. Well, he was working for the government. He'd never have left us otherwise, and we want to see him, please, right now. My, but the little miss is impatient. Patience, patience, young lady. Meg did not tell the man on the chair that patience was not one of her virtues. That means patience is not one of her attributes or one of the good things about her. So obviously she's not a very patient person. And by the way, my children, he continued blandly, you don't need to vocalise verbally with me, you know. I can understand you quite well as you can understand me. Charles Wallace put his hands on his hips defiantly. The spoken word is one of the triumphs of man, he proclaimed, and I intend to continue using it, particularly with people I don't trust. But his voice was shaking. Charles Wallace, who even as an infant had seldom cried, was near tears. So man is trying to say that actually they can communicate telepathically, which means through their mind. They don't actually need to use words. And you don't trust me? What reason have you given us to trust you? Or what cause have I given you for distrust? The thin lips curled slightly. Suddenly Charles Wallace darted forward and hit the man as hard as he could, which was fairly hard, as he had a good deal of coaching from the twins. Charles! Meg screamed. The men in dark smocks moved smoothly, but with swiftness, to Charles. The man in the chair casually raised one finger, and the men dropped back. Hold it, Calvin whispered, and together he and Meg darted forward and grabbed Charles Wallace, pulling him back from the platform. The man gave a wince, like, oof, and the thought of his voice was a little breathless, as though Charles Wallace's punch had succeeded in winding him. May I ask why you did that? Because you aren't you, Charles Wallace said. I'm not sure what you are, but you, he pointed to the man in the chair, aren't what's talking to us. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I didn't think you were real. I thought perhaps you were a robot, because I don't feel anything coming from you. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but it's coming through you. It isn't you. Pretty smart, aren't you? The thought asked, and Meg had an uncomfortable feeling that she detected a snarl. It's not that I'm smart, Charles Wallace said, and again Meg could feel the palm of his hand sweating in hers. Try to find out who I am then, the thought probed. I've been trying, Charles Wallace said, his voice high and troubled. Look into my eyes, look deep within them, and I will tell you. Charles Wallace looked quickly at Meg and Calvin and said to himself, I have to, and focused his clear blue eyes on the red ones of the man in the chair. Meg looked not at the man but at her brother. After a moment it seemed that his eyes were no longer focusing. The pupils grew smaller and smaller, as though he were looking into an intensely bright light, until they seemed to close entirely, until his eyes were nothing but an opaque blue. He slipped his hands out of Meg's and Calvin's and started walking slowly towards the man in the chair. No! Meg screamed, no! But Charles Wallace continued his slow walk forward, and she knew that he had not heard her. No! She screamed again, and ran after him. With her inefficient flying tackle she landed on him. She was so much larger than he that he felt sprawling, hitting his head a sharp crack against the marble floor. She knelt by him, sobbing. After a moment of lying there as though he'd been knocked out by the blow, he opened his eyes, shook his head and sat up. Slowly the pupils of his eyes dilated until they were back to normal, and the blood came back to his white cheeks. The man on the chair spoke directly into Meg's mind, and now there was a distinct menace to the words. I am not pleased, he said to her. I could very easily lose patience with you, and that, for your information, young lady, would not be good for your father. If you have the slightest desire to see your father again, you had better cooperate. Meg reacted as she sometimes reacted to Mr. Jenkins at school. She scowled down at the ground in sullen fury. It might help you if you gave us something to eat, she complained. We're all starved. If you're going to be horrible to us, you might as well give us full stomachs first. Again, the thoughts coming at her broke into laughter. Isn't she the funny girl, though? It's lucky for you that you amuse me, my dear, or I shouldn't be so easy on you. The boys I find not nearly so diverting, which means interesting. Ah, well, now tell me, young lady, if I feed you, will you stop interfering with me? No, Meg said. Starvation does work wonders, of course, the man told her. I hate to use such primitive methods on you, but of course you realise that you force them on me. I wouldn't eat your old food anyway. Meg was still all churned out and angry as though she were when Mr. Jenkins was. I wouldn't trust you. Of course, our food, being synthetic, is not superior to your messes of beans and bacon and so forth, but I assure you that it's far more nourishing, and though it has no taste of its own, slight conditioning is all that's necessary to give the illusion that you're eating a roast turkey dinner. If I ate now, I'd throw up anyway, Meg said. Still holding Meg and Calvin's hands, Charles Wallace stepped forward. OK, what next? He asked the man on the chair. We've had enough of all these preliminaries. Let's get on with it. That's exactly what we were doing, the man said, until your sister interfered by practically giving you a brain concussion. Should we try again? No, Meg cried. No, Charles, please let me do it, or Calvin. But it's only the little boy whose neurological system is complex enough. If you tried to conduct the necessary neurons, your brain would explode. And Charles's wouldn't? I think not. But there's a possibility. There's always a possibility. Then he mustn't do it. I think you will have to grant him the right to make his own decisions. But Meg, with a dogged tenacity that had so often caused her trouble, continued. That means that when she wants to do something, there's no stopping her. You mean Calvin and I can't know who you really are? Oh, no, I didn't say that. You can't know in the same way, nor is it as important to me to have you know. Ah, here we are. From somewhere in the shadows appeared 4 more men in dark smocks carrying a table. It was covered with a white cloth, like the tables used by room service in hotels, and held a metal box, hot box, containing something that smelled delicious, something that smelled like a turkey dinner. There's something phony in the whole setup. Phony means false. Meg thought, there is definitely something rotten in the state of comatose. Again the thought seemed to break into laughter. Of course, it doesn't really smell, but it is as good as though it really did. I don't smell anything, Charles Wallace said. I know, young man, and think how much you're missing. This will all taste to you as though you were eating sand, but I suggest you force it down. I would rather not have your decisions come from the weakness of an empty stomach. The table was set up in front of them, and the dark smock men heaped their plates with turkey dressing and mashed potatoes and gravy and little green peas and big yellow blobs of butter melting in them, and cranberries and sweet potatoes topped with gooey brown marshmallows and olives and celery and rosebud radishes. And Meg felt her stomach rumbling loudly as saliva came to her mouth. "Oh, Jiminy," Calvin mumbled. Chairs appeared, and the four men who provided the feast slid back from the shadows. Charles Wallace freed his hands from Meg's and Calvin and plonked himself on one of the chairs. "Come on," he said, "if it's poison, but I don't think it is." Calvin sat down, and Meg continued to stand, indecisively. Calvin took a bite. He chewed, he swallowed, he looked at Meg. "If this isn't real, it's the best imitation you'll ever get." Charles Wallace took a bite, made a face, and spat it out. "Oh, it's unfair," he shouted to the man. Laughter again. "Go on, little fellow, eat." Meg sighed and sat down. "I don't think we should eat this stuff, but if you're going to, I'd better too." She took a mouthful. "Tastes all right. Try some of mine, Charles." She held out a forkful of turkey. Charles Wallace took it, made another face, but managed to swallow. "Ugh, still tastes like sand to me," he said. He looked at the man. "Why?" "You know perfectly well why. You've shut your mind entirely to me. The other two can't. I get in through the chinks, not all the way in, but enough to give them a turkey dinner. You see, I'm really just a kind, jolly old gentleman." So because a man can infiltrate or get inside the mind of Calvin and Meg, he can make the food taste like turkey, but he can't get into Charles Wallace's mind, so he can't make that happen. So he's just tasting what it actually really tastes like sand. "Ha!" Charles Wallace said. The man lifted his lips into a smile, and his smile was the most horrible thing Meg had ever seen. "Why don't you trust me, Charles? Why don't you trust me enough to come in and find out who I am? I am peace and utter rest. I am freedom from all responsibility. To come into me is the last difficult decision you need to ever make." "If I come into you, can I get out again?" Charles Wallace asked. "But of course, if you want to, but I don't think you will want to." "If I come, not to stay, you understand, just to find out about you, will you tell us where Father is?" "Yes, that's a promise, and I don't make promises lightly." "Can I speak to Meg and Calvin alone, without you listening?" "No." Charles shrugged. "Listen," he said to Meg and Calvin, "I have to find out what he really is. You know that. If I'm going to hold back, I'm going to try to keep my part of myself out. You mustn't stop me this time, Meg." "But you won't be able to, Charles. He's stronger than you are. You know that." "I have to try." "But Mrs. Watson warned you." "I have to try. For Father, Meg, please, I want to know my father." For a moment his lips trembled. Then he was back in control. "But it isn't only Father, Meg. You know that now. It's the black thing. We have to do what Mrs. Witch sent us to do." "Calvin," Meg begged. Calvin shook his head. "He's right, Meg, and we'll be with him no matter what happens." "But what's going to happen?" Meg cried. Charles Wallace looked up at the man. "Okay," he said. "Let's go." Now the red eyes and the light above seemed to bore into Charles, which means go deep and deep inside him. And again the pupils of the little boy's eyes contracted. When the final point of black was lost in blue, he turned away from the red eyes, looked at Meg, smiled sweetly, but the smile was not Charles Wallace's smile. "Come on, Meg, eat this delicious food that's been prepared for us," he said. Meg snatched Charles Wallace's plate and threw it on the floor, so that the dinner splashed about and the plate broke into fragments. "No," she cried, her voice rising shrilly. "No, no, no!" From the shadows came one of the dark smocked men and put another plate of food in front of Charles Wallace, and he began to eat eagerly. "What's wrong, Meg?" Charles Wallace asked. "Why are you being so belligerent and so uncooperative?" The voice was Charles Wallace's voice, and yet it was different too, somehow how flattened out, almost as a voice might have sounded on the two-dimensional planet. Meg grabbed wildly at Calvin, shrieking, "That isn't Charles! Charles is gone!" So, it sounds like the man, the red-eyed man in front of them, has been able to infiltrate Charles Wallace's mind, and he's inside it and he's controlling him. Hopefully, Charles Wallace is strong enough to come back out again at the end. We can find out what Meg's father is, but we don't really know. So yes, we'll do a little bit more reading, hopefully by the end of the week, if not next week. So yeah, stay safe, stay happy. I'll see some of you next week, and for those of you who I don't see, we'll keep all this up. I'll update as much as possible along with Miss Everett, and we will hopefully see you again soon. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.